Welcome to Wild Crone Wisdom podcast with your host, Vinutha Mohan. In this episode, we explore the important role that accountability plays in determining the health of a long term relationship. Spring is in the air, a season of new growth, fresh beginnings, and renewed dreams. And with it comes the buzz of weddings. Everywhere I turn, someone is attending one, planning one, or reminiscing about one. I have been to many weddings over the years, from the long, vibrant, multi day celebrations of Indian culture to the quick and simple ceremonies of the West, and even those beautiful hybrids that blend the two. Some of my friends love the brevity of Western weddings. But me, I've always been drawn to the colors, the music, the rituals, the flower garlands, the henna, and the mantras of my culture. Every ceremony, every tradition feels steeped in meaning. One ritual that has always stood out to me is the Saptapadi, or the seven steps in the Hindu marriage. According to Hindu law, this is the most critical part of the marriage ceremony. Without it, the union isn't even legally recognized. In South India, the groom leads the bride by hand around the sacred fire 3 times, making a vow with each round. Then the bride takes the lead, completing the final 4 steps with 4 vows of her own. These vows form the spiritual and symbolic foundation of the marriage. They are not written by the couple as their own unique vows, but are from a standard template. Perhaps that can change in the future to make it more personal to the couple getting married. But then it begs the question, who is tracking whether these vows are being honored? Who is holding the couple accountable? Not just in ceremony, but in life. While the ritual is ancient and there are many literal and symbolic interpretations of these 7 steps/vows, I choose to think of them as the couple taking turns leading one another in life. When one stumbles, the other picks him or her up. Together, they build a life based on some common values, principles, goals, and they not only support each other, but also hold each other accountable. It is in this area that I find many couples failing. We speak of loyalty, but we rarely speak of accountability, especially in my culture. Research shows that over a long term relationship, couples both physiologically and psychologically co regulate each other. That means that if each person in the relationship brings their wholesome self to the marriage, then they thrive both individually and as a couple. On the other hand, if one of them is struggling with a mental health condition, substance abuse, addiction, or intergenerational transmission of trauma, it inevitably affects the other. The healthier partner begins to suffer from what's called vicarious trauma, secondhand trauma. They start to experience symptoms just by being close to their partner's pain. And over time, that stress shows up in their own mental and physical health. Many a time, I've seen spouses overcompensating for their partner's depression, anxiety, trauma, personality disorders, and eventually the once healthy partner starts to develop health issues of their own. Very often, fidelity to the marriage is understood as blind loyalty to your partner. However, that is not helping but enabling your partner's dysfunction and maladaptive coping strategies. In sickness and in health doesn't mean helplessly watching them suffer, ignoring or denying the problem, or not holding them accountable for their well being. True fidelity to a relationship means that each partner takes a vow to take personal responsibility for their well being and promises to do whatever it takes to maintain it. True fidelity also means that each partner vows to hold the other accountable to their part of the marriage contract by providing both support and consequences. This reminds me of a powerful metaphor from the Indian mythology. In the Mahabharata, there is a character named Gandhari, who is the princess of Gandhara, modern day Afghanistan. When Gandhari realizes that she had been betrothed to the blind king Dhritarashtra, she immediately decides to tie a scarf around her eyes in solidarity with her future husband. For the rest of her life, Gandhari lives in complete blindness, just like her husband. While some may praise her for her loyalty and empathic resonance, I see it as what Buddhist teacher Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche called idiot compassion, when empathy leads to enabling. She could have as easily decided to be his eyes, both physically and spiritually, guiding him both as a queen and as a wife. As the story turns out, she begets him 100 sons, and the oldest son is a troubled soul who is arrogant and out of control. The king has blind love for his son and is unable to guide him. Gandhari eventually fails both as a mother and wife, and having chosen blindness, can only watch as their dynasty crumbles. It's a powerful metaphor for what happens when we conflate loyalty with silence, when we choose comfort over truth, when we think love means shielding someone from accountability rather than helping them grow. Love is not a noun, it's a verb. Brene Brown says that love in action includes both accountability and responsibility. In relationships, she says that holding someone accountable takes a lot more work than denial, shaming, and blaming. Many spouses resort to numbing themselves, spiritual bypassing, or overly investing in their careers or their children because it takes too much work to hold your spouse accountable. Such a strategy is a penny wise, pound foolish one because it only results in long term disengagement and, in some cases, dissolution of the marriage. In any relationship, Renee encourages one to choose discomfort over resentment. Holding your spouse accountable requires you to lean into the short term discomfort of conflict. Conflicts in couples generally tend to be about lack of intimacy, unequal share of the housework, parenting, mental and physical well being, lack of boundaries with extended family, and so on. However, if you decide to avoid these short term discomforts, over a period of time, resentment builds, which is then cancerous to the relationship. Marriage is not just a celebration, it's a contract, a sacred one. Like any meaningful contract, it must be negotiated with care. Values have to be carefully spelled out and aligned, responsibilities clear, and each person should hold the other accountable for their part of the contractual obligations. As we all know, with any work related contract, construction contract, or any other legally binding contract, without proper accountability, it is bound to result in some form of failure. So, next time I witness the Saptapadi, I'll still be moved by the beauty, but I will also be thinking about those 7 steps not just as a tradition, but as a living vow, a promise to lead and to follow, to support and to challenge, to love not blindly but bravely. And maybe, just maybe, we'll start rewriting what fidelity really means. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wild Crone Wisdom with your host, Vinutha Mohan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist from the Bay Area, California, specializing in trauma and attachment repair. I'm also a certified EMDR specialist and a certified shamanic practitioner. In this podcast series, we delve into the journey of our spiritual essence having a human experience. While many social scientists study human emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, and others explore transcendental experiences, few bridge the gap to help embody the spiritual wisdom in everyday life. I call this the psycho spiritual path. Through this podcast, I hope to share bite sized practical insights for navigating life as an empowered sovereign being. If you found this episode valuable, we'd greatly appreciate your support. Please consider rating, reviewing, commenting, and subscribing on your podcast platform to help us reach a wider audience. You can explore more of my writings on Medium by following the link in the show notes. We'd also love to hear about your experience, so feel free to share your thoughts with us at Wild Crone Wisdom Podcast at gmail.com. Thank you for being part of our journey. Please be advised the information provided in the Wild Crone Wisdom podcast is intended for general information purposes only. Vinutha Mohan is a licensed therapist and healer. However, the content shared in this podcast does not replace or constitute professional advice, therapy, or counseling. It is essential to consult with a qualified mental health professional for personalized guidance regarding your unique circumstances. Thank you.